No hard hat this week, but you better believe I've still got some awesome updates to share with you all. What's up guys, Dr. Coaster here on behalf of the Georgia Coast Connection, and welcome back to another ArieForce One Construction update. Before we get started, I just want everyone to know that all photos and footage included in any of these construction updates are free to use with credit. I'd also like to thank my Georgia Coast Connection partner Christopher as we gather this content together. I'll link his pages down below. Leading off this video, I gotta say, if you haven't seen last week's video update, you should probably start there. I was fortunate enough to get invited into the hardhead zone by Fun Spot, and I got some incredible shots of the ride that haven't been seen anywhere else. I'm going to continue using some of those shots as B-roll going forward to supplement these updates, but I'd highly recommend checking out that video to see those shots in all of their glory before you check out this one. Oh yeah, and there's also a face reveal in that one too, if you needed any further convincing. Or maybe that's actually a deterrent, I don't know. Anyway, if you're still with me, or you have returned from the last update, welcome, or welcome back, because like always, I returned to Fun Spot Atlanta this week to see the progress accomplished on ArieForce One. Last week we went into the hardhead zone and saw the beginnings of track being installed to the Raven Truss dive, but also how much steel RMC has on site to continue construction. This week, RMC added even more steel on site and continued to take the ride vertical while Fun Spot officially announced a new ride. The parking lot has continued being prepared for future visitors and looks to have been more smoothed out this week, if we're getting very technical with it. Not to be outdone by our parking lot though, RMC got a lot done this week, so let's move on. As we've seen support start to shoot up in front of the arcade, it's still super important to check out the turnaround behind the arcade, as this is where the two parts of the ride will be connected to each other by the barrel roll and the chili dip respectively. There isn't anything super new here behind the arcade, but we do have a barrier up, and the track that was laying nearby is no longer there. I did spot section the track in the storage area located back behind the turnaround, so it is possible that this track has moved there, or it could be even more new track entirely. RMC did receive a few truckloads worth of stuff earlier this week, so either of these options is entirely possible. Whenever RMC does drop the barrel into place, it's going to connect all the steel behind the arcade to the supports seen here. Last week we saw these supports go vertical for what will eventually support the barrel roll and or the chili dip, and beginning of the quad down, although I do believe this is the chili dip in the beginning of the quad down. Similar to how the barrel roll and chili dip are going to connect the front and back of the arcade, these supports will join with another set of supports across the walkway, which we have patiently been waiting to see go vertical, and fortunately this week, we got to see just that, sort of, or at least part of it. Because while the supports immediately on the other side of the walkway aren't complete yet, we do have a lot more of them that have gone vertical further down the straightaway. The straightaway has been seeing a lot of progress recently, and this latest addition is the greatest example of that. And a sign of things to come, because I wasn't expecting to see this particular footer go vertical for a while. And that's because this footer in front of the ticket booth hasn't been poured for more than 2 to 3 weeks, meaning that inspections from the government seem a lot quicker at the moment, or at least I hope. So far, along other places of the layout, it's taken at least a month to a month and a half before we've seen other footers go vertical. So this is a great sign going forward for construction, because there is another footer about to be poured, and it appears to be for the exit of the Outer Banked Airtime Hill. I've been staring at this plot of land recently, wondering how the ride would connect to the next footer. But now I've got my answer. RMC and Fun Spot possibly waited to pour this one for so long, so it wasn't as much of a headache to get equipment in and out of this section. We saw a similar process behind the arcade with the installation of track, where there was that one part of the ground hugger that got installed last. And yes, if you haven't noticed, there is yet another support that has gone up nearby. Now something to consider when we look at not just this support, but the rest of them as well, is that they only represent the return to the station. We still have to see that out portion heading down towards the arcade take place, but it appears that we are starting to see the quad down and brake run come into existence like I previously mentioned. With that said, I would have loved to have gotten up in the Ferris wheel this week, but I mentioned in past updates that it is unfortunately closed, and I'd imagine it will stay that way for a while, so there won't be any new views from up there right now. However, I will continue grabbing footage from outside of the entrance as we continue to see the Raven Truss dive come into form. I know I've been out here a few times now, but it's never any less awe-inspiring for me standing beneath this ride. I think the scope of how large this ride is really enhanced by the current size of this park. There really isn't anything else that rivals ArieForce One's sheer size, but I doubt it'll be that way forever. I can't wait to see what this park looks like 5 to 10 years from now. Now, possibly the most exciting news I've got this week that I definitely geeked out over when I found it was that the chain lift is now installed. We had seen the components for this going in throughout recent weeks, but the chain itself had remained out of sight. I tried to zoom in the best I could because looking back at some of my previous footage, this is definitely new this week and I'm so excited to share it with you. While I was up in the front of the park, I also noticed a couple of large holes that have been dug near the future side of the station. I am completely unaware and have no clue as to what these are, but there are permits attached to a post nearby that I'm sure are related to it in some way. Maybe this has to do with the beginnings of electrical work. I'm not sure, but time will tell. Stay tuned. And yeah, I understand a lot of you are here to see the progress in the Raven Truss dive. So here it is this week. I wish I had a better update for you all, but it appears RMC really put a lot of their effort into the straightaway and chain lift this week. But don't you worry, they are still working on it and they will have it done soon. And you better believe that I will be letting you know as soon as that happens. I mentioned last week just how much steel was lying around, whether that be track or supports. And this week, there just seems to be even more of it added as the other parts make their way vertical. It seems like the last bit of work that we are waiting on is the last footer to be poured and to let it cure and pass inspections. With that said, ArieForce One is getting so much closer to liftoff than many people think. Yeah, it's likely still a couple of months away, but it'll be here before we know it. Before we wrap up though, I've got some additional news. While I didn't check in on the Spider or flyers while I was at the park this week, Fun Spot Atlanta did officially announce the flyers on social media this week with a picture of them, and wow, did they look good. That red, white, and blue color scheme will fit in perfectly with Fun Spot Atlanta, as well as sitting next to the Tilt-A-Whirl and then the shadows of ArieForce One. It appears they're going to be called the Screaming Eagles, which leaves me wondering, what about the Screaming Eagle? So I'd imagine a rebrand could be coming, as that would be a bizarre combination. But Screaming Eagle did just receive new trains recently, so maybe it's not that surprising. Heck, maybe we're even in store for a fresh coat of paint being added to the coaster at some point. Time will tell, but it's definitely something interesting to keep an eye on if you're a fan of the park. Lastly, if you're interested in how I create these updates each and every week, I took another camera along with me this week and filmed a behind the scenes video of how I put these things together. This is also an attempt at a vlog of sorts and to introduce you more to the guy behind the curtain. So maybe keep your eyes peeled for that one. I think you'll enjoy it if I end up uploading it soon. Thank you all for watching. That was the 21st of many ArieForce One construction updates to come. If you don't want to miss out on more construction updates like this, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as many more of these will be coming out leading up to the opening of the ride. If you haven't already, then also be sure to follow Georgia Coast Connection over on Instagram. Your home for all things ArieForce One. If you're feeling inclined, then you can follow me as well at Dr_Coaster. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.